Wisdom seekers, take a moment and think about all the energy you've given to others. Your support, your empathy, your time, maybe even your own dreams, set aside to help those you thought needed you. But here's the paradox. Not everyone we help is helped, and not every act of generosity brings goodness into the world. As the Stoics teach, discernment is at the core of virtue. Knowing whom to help and when to refrain is a skill that protects both our inner peace and our potential for true impact. Imagine your life as a garden. You've spent years cultivating it, planting seeds of resilience, watering them with discipline, and tending to them with self-reflection. But certain people can trample over this garden, uninvited, disregarding the beauty and effort within. Instead of growing alongside you, they consume, leaving you drained, barren, and questioning your own worth. In Stoicism, this garden is your inner citadel, the fortress of your mind and soul that must be fortified against unworthy intruders. Marcus Aurelius reminds us to guard your time and attention, for these are the sources of our strength, purpose, and peace. Today, we explore 8 types of people to whom the Stoics and other wise philosophers would say no, because sometimes refraining from helping is an act of courage and wisdom, ensuring that our energy is used for growth and virtue, not for those who bring chaos and resentment. So, wisdom seekers, as we dive in, remember that every type we cover today isn't just a cautionary tale about others. It's a reminder of what we must avoid within ourselves too. Let's walk this path to clarity and strength, examining each type and the wisdom in choosing not to give where our help would be wasted. If you're fired up to take your wisdom to the next level, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and drop a comment below saying, "I am ready for wisdom." Let's keep pushing forward, wisdom seekers. Type 1, the chronically negative, the dark cloud that follows. Let's delve further into the chronically negative. These people are defined by a deeply ingrained habit of viewing everything in the worst possible light. It's not just a bad day or a fleeting moment of doubt for them. It's a world view, a constant filter through which every experience, every person, and every opportunity is colored with skepticism, criticism, and distrust. They are, in a way, prisoners of their own minds, locked inside a fortress they've built from layers of fear, resentment, and pessimism. Philosophers have often pondered why some people cling so tightly to negativity. It's as if they wear their cynicism as a badge of honor, or worse, as protection from disappointment. But this mindset, which they may see as realism or caution, is a distortion. Marcus Aurelius, a man who lived through wars, loss, and betrayal, knew what hardship meant. Yet, he taught himself to find the good in everything. Not because life is always good, but because our perspective defines our experience. He wrote in Meditations, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." To the chronically negative, this wisdom is foreign. They cannot see how their thoughts shape their suffering. The subtle impact on your own mind. When you engage with a chronically negative person, their worldview begins to chip away at your optimism, much like a river erodes rock over time. You might notice your own thoughts becoming clouded, more suspicious, or even resentful. This is the subtle influence they have. They sow seeds of doubt and fear, and if you're not vigilant, these seeds can take root. Even those who consider themselves strong-willed are not immune to this effect. The Stoics believed that our minds are like gardens, which must be carefully tended to prevent the growth of weeds, negative thoughts that can suffocate our inner peace and happiness. When we spend time with the chronically negative, we're inviting these weeds to take hold. In psychology, this phenomenon is sometimes called emotional contagion, where one person's mood or emotional state spreads to others. Think of it as a form of invisible pollution. Just as secondhand smoke can harm even those who don't smoke, secondhand negativity can corrode the mindset of even the most positive individuals. For the Stoic, this is a kind of spiritual poison, one that requires us to set firm boundaries to preserve our own well-being. Why? Trying to help them is a losing battle. Attempting to help a chronically negative person can feel like trying to fill a bottomless pit. You might offer them a different perspective, share an uplifting experience, or suggest practical steps they could take. But each time, they find a way to dismiss or discredit what you've shared. They have countless reasons why things will never improve, why your advice won't work, or why your efforts are misguided. Imagine you're standing at the edge of a vast, empty chasm. You're pouring water into this chasm, hoping to see it fill, but no matter how much you pour, it simply vanishes into the darkness. This is what it's like to try to rescue a chronically negative person. Your time, your energy, your hope, all of it is absorbed, leaving you feeling drained and disheartened. Setting boundaries, a lesson in Stoic discernment. The Stoics practice the art of discernment, the ability to judge wisely where to place one's efforts. This is not indifference, it is a profound recognition of where your energy will do the most good. Seneca spoke often about how time is the one thing we can never recover, and he urged people to use it with care and intention. When you give your time to someone who is unwilling or unable to grow, you're giving away a part of your life that could be used to nurture yourself, pursue your purpose, or help someone who is truly open to change. For a Stoic, the priority is to maintain one's own peace, to cultivate an inner strength that is unshakable. This strength is not built by rescuing those who are unwilling to leave their dark world, but by remaining a source of light for those ready to rise. A Stoic practice, compassion without entanglement. It's still possible to care for the chronically negative without becoming entangled in their mindset. The key is to practice what could be called compassionate detachment. This means recognizing their suffering without adopting it, understanding their pain without absorbing it. In practical terms, this might look like setting limits on conversations that spiral into complaints, or gently redirecting their focus without engaging in their pessimism. Remember, your role is not to fix them. Sometimes, the most compassionate thing you can do is to allow them to face their own shadows, knowing that only they can choose to change. Type 2. The constant victim. Perpetual helplessness and self-pity. Now we turn to the constant victim, a person who lives in a state of perpetual helplessness and self-pity. To them, life is a series of unfair events, and they are always on the receiving end of misfortune. They rarely, if ever, take ownership of their circumstances. Instead, they cling to a narrative in which the world is against them, a narrative that absolves them of responsibility, but also traps them in a cage of their own making. The Stoics would say that this type of person is missing one of the most crucial elements of personal freedom, the understanding that we are the authors of our own lives. Epictetus, who had experienced the worst of human suffering, taught that people are not disturbed by things, but by the view they take of them. A constant victim, however, is defined by their refusal to view their experiences through any lens other than that of helplessness. They reject the Stoic notion that we have the power to interpret our experiences, choosing instead to see themselves as passive recipients of fate's cruelty. The endless cycle of rescue and rejection. Helping a constant victim can be a particularly exhausting endeavor because they often pull you into a cycle of rescue and rejection. At first, they might seem grateful for your help. They might even seem receptive to your advice. But soon, they will return to their familiar narrative of helplessness, finding new reasons why their situation is hopeless, new people to blame, and new ways to deny responsibility. In trying to help them, you may end up feeling like a character in an endless loop, offering solutions that are continuously disregarded. Each time they have an excuse, a reason why things can't change, a justification for why they are destined to suffer. This cycle is not only disheartening, but can also create a subtle sense of resentment within you. You might start to question your own kindness, wondering if it's truly possible to help someone who refuses to help themselves. The Stoic wisdom of responsibility. For the Stoics, freedom and responsibility are intertwined. To be free, one must take responsibility for one's own mind, actions, and reactions. A person who lives as a victim is bound by their own refusal to acknowledge their role in shaping their life. They are chained not by external circumstances, but by an internal belief that they are powerless. The philosopher Seneca would remind us that difficulties strengthen the mind, as labor does the body. Challenges are meant to be faced and overcome, not used as excuses to remain stagnant. The constant victim, however, sees difficulties as proof that life is unfair and that they are uniquely burdened. In trying to help such a person, you are actually reinforcing their victimhood. You become another participant in their narrative, another character in their story of helplessness. The practice of discernment, knowing when to step back. When dealing with a constant victim, it's essential to practice discernment, just as the Stoics taught. Offer help once, perhaps even twice, but be mindful of the energy you are investing. The Stoics believed that while we can offer guidance, the decision to grow lies solely with the individual. No amount of assistance will change a person who isn't ready to accept responsibility for their life. By stepping back, you allow the constant victim the opportunity to confront their own patterns. It may seem harsh, but this space is necessary. Only by facing the consequences of their mindset can they begin to see the need for change. Your compassion is not diminished by stepping back. Rather, it's an acknowledgement of their agency and the respect you hold for your own energy and time. A Stoic exercise, reflecting on the energy you give. As a practical exercise, take a moment to reflect on where your energy goes each day. Think about the people you help, the time you invest, and the impact it has on you. Ask yourself, is this person open to change, or am I engaging in a cycle that leaves both of us drained? Consider journaling about this, as the Stoics often did, to clarify your intentions and evaluate where your efforts align with your values. Recognize that every act of help you give is a piece of your life, a part of your spirit. Be deliberate with it. Like water, your energy is a precious resource. It can nurture those who seek growth, but it cannot quench the thirst of those who refuse to drink. Type 3. The Manipulator, Masters of Emotional Leverage. Manipulators are, in many ways, among the most challenging people to identify and deal with because they often disguise their intentions beneath a mask of charm, empathy, or feigned vulnerability. These individuals use others as tools to achieve their own ends, leveraging emotions, guilt, or flattery to bend people to their will. Manipulators have an almost instinctual ability to identify people's weaknesses or desires, and they exploit these to gain control or influence. From a Stoic perspective, the manipulator is someone who lacks alignment with the virtues of honesty and integrity. Stoicism teaches us to seek clarity in our actions and interactions, to operate with honesty, and to respect the autonomy of others. Manipulators do the opposite. They exploit human connection, turning it into a means to an end. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be one." For the Stoic, this means acting with sincerity and avoiding deceit. Manipulators, however, prey on others' trust, twisting honesty to serve their own purposes. Recognizing the signs of manipulation. Manipulation often doesn't announce itself. It's subtle, insidious, and can take many forms. A manipulator might flatter you, making you feel exceptional, then ask for a favor that serves only their interests. They might play the role of the poor, misunderstood victim to elicit sympathy or claim you're the only one who can help them. Over time, they subtly create an environment where their needs always come first, often at the expense of your own well-being and priorities. Manipulators have a unique way of shifting blame and guilt. When you try to set boundaries, they might accuse you of being unloving or unsupportive, pulling you back into their web. They play on your empathy, kindness, and sense of duty, qualities that, ironically, are some of your greatest strengths. In exploiting these virtues, they seek to bend you into a role that serves their agenda. Why you must protect your energy from manipulators. From a Stoic viewpoint, to be manipulated is to surrender your own sovereignty. Epictetus taught that our most precious asset is our will, the ability to make choices based on reason rather than emotion. When we allow manipulators into our lives, we risk giving away this autonomy. We are no longer making decisions freely. Instead, we're acting under the subtle pressure of someone else's influence. Manipulators compromise our integrity by steering us away from our values and intentions. Imagine your life as a ship sailing toward a destination, your purpose, your goals, your sense of peace. A manipulator is like a hidden current, quietly but powerfully pulling your ship off course. You might not notice at first, but over time, you find yourself far from where you intended to go. The energy you invest in them is energy diverted from your own growth, stability, and happiness. How to break free from the influence of manipulators. Breaking free from a manipulator requires both awareness and courage. Stoicism teaches us that the only things truly within our control are our thoughts and actions. Recognizing manipulation and setting firm boundaries is an exercise in reclaiming this control. You don't need to confront a manipulator aggressively. Simply establish limits. Refuse to engage in their games. Remember, you are under no obligation to justify your boundaries or decisions to someone who manipulates. The Stoics might advise a practice of inner fortification here, strengthening your will through daily reflection on your values. Consider journaling each morning or evening, writing down the principles you want to live by and reminding yourself of the autonomy you seek to maintain. This process not only clarifies your intentions, but also strengthens your resilience against emotional leverage. Type 4. The Drama Seeker, thriving on chaos and conflict. Drama seekers are people who seem to find or even create chaos wherever they go. They are drawn to arguments, controversies, and crises, often blowing minor issues out of proportion to create a whirlwind of emotional turmoil. These individuals can be exhausting to deal with because they bring an unpredictable element into any relationship or situation. To the drama seeker, peace and stability are boring. Conflict and chaos are exciting and essential to their sense of identity. For the Stoic, a life of peace is the ultimate goal, achieved by cultivating an inner citadel of calm and rationality. Drama seekers, however, are the antithesis of this philosophy. They thrive on emotional upheaval, dragging others into a storm of feelings and conflicts that are often trivial or unnecessary. Epictetus would say that drama seekers are slaves to their passions. They lack the Stoics' prized virtue of self-control. How drama seeking infects your life and mind. When you're close to a drama seeker, their constant turmoil becomes a part of your own life. Their arguments, crises, and conflicts spill over into your peace, filling your thoughts with anxiety and stress that are not truly yours. They might call you at odd hours to recount some perceived slight or demand your intervention in a conflict that has nothing to do with you. Over time, their chaos becomes a constant presence, eroding your own sense of calm. From a Stoic perspective, allowing a drama seeker's turmoil to become a part of your life is akin to voluntarily surrendering your peace. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." When you engage with a drama seeker, you're allowing outside events, their chaos, to dictate your inner state. This is contrary to Stoic teachings, which emphasize detachment from external turmoil, setting boundaries, and protecting your inner peace. The Stoics valued the practice of apatheia, a state of being free from irrational passions. When dealing with a drama seeker, cultivating apatheia means choosing not to be emotionally entangled in their chaos. It doesn't mean you're indifferent to their struggles. It means you recognize which emotions and conflicts are worth your engagement and which are not. Establishing boundaries here might look like limiting your involvement in their conflicts or refusing to be drawn into arguments that serve no constructive purpose. A practical Stoic exercise to manage the impact of a drama seeker is to visualize a mental shield that protects your mind from their emotional turbulence. When they attempt to involve you in their latest crisis, remind yourself of your inner citadel, the place within you that remains untouched by external storms. This visualization strengthens your resolve and reminds you that you have the power to remain unaffected by their drama. Type 5. The Perpetual Critic, the eternal judge of others. The perpetual critic is a person who constantly finds fault in others, passing judgment without considering their own flaws. They criticize friends, family, strangers, and even themselves with unrelenting harshness. The critic's words and actions stem from a belief that they are superior, or that they possess some kind of ultimate authority on how others should live. Yet, beneath this exterior of judgment often lies insecurity, a need to elevate themselves by diminishing others. Seneca, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers, urged us to frequently examine our own faults before seeking the faults in others. The perpetual critic, however, avoids this self-reflection. They project their dissatisfaction outward, blaming and judging others instead of addressing the emptiness within themselves. The critic is trapped in a cycle of self-righteousness, using judgment as a way to avoid self-improvement. The corrosive effect of constant criticism. Being close to a perpetual critic can be soul-crushing. Their endless stream of negativity chips away at the joy in life, replacing it with a sense of inadequacy, shame, or resentment. You might begin to feel that nothing you do is good enough, or that you're constantly under scrutiny. This person's criticism creates an environment where mistakes are magnified and achievements are minimized. In the long run, it can lead to self-doubt and a fear of being authentic around them. The Stoics valued humility and self-awareness, understanding that no one is without flaws. To criticize others constantly is to deny one's own humanity, to ignore the shared struggles and imperfections that unite us all. Epictetus advised that we be kind, for everyone you meet is fighting a hard battle. The perpetual critic disregards this wisdom, assuming instead that they alone are beyond reproach. How to handle the perpetual critic? Handling a perpetual critic requires a combination of compassion and detachment. Compassion allows you to recognize that their judgment stems from their own struggles and insecurities. Detachment, on the other hand, protects you from internalizing their negativity. A Stoic exercise to counter the effects of a critic's judgment is to remind yourself of your own worth and values. Write down the qualities that define you, the values you hold dear, and the achievements that matter to you, not to others. Setting boundaries with a perpetual critic is essential. This might mean limiting your interactions with them, disengaging from conversations that turn critical, or calmly expressing that their judgment does not align with your values. You do not owe anyone an explanation for choosing peace over conflict. Remember, the Stoic path is one of inner tranquility, and peace of mind is worth protecting. Type 6, the envious, consumed by resentment of others' success. Envy is a powerful emotion, often disguised but deeply corrosive. Those who are envious see the success, happiness, or achievements of others as a reflection of their own shortcomings. Instead of using others' success as motivation, they feel resentment, viewing life as a zero-sum game in which someone else's gain is their own loss. Envious people live in a perpetual state of comparison, unable to appreciate their own path because they are fixated on what others have. The Stoics understood the danger of envy and the toll it takes on the mind. Seneca wrote, "The greatest obstacle to living is expectancy, which hangs upon tomorrow and loses today." For the envious, life is always about what they lack compared to others, making it impossible for them to be present and grateful for what they have. Envy blinds them to their own strengths and blessings, creating a cycle of dissatisfaction that leaves them perpetually unfulfilled. The invisible drain of envy on your spirit. Interacting with an envious person can subtly erode your own sense of fulfillment and peace. You may notice that they constantly point out the flaws or weaknesses in others, downplay the achievements of friends, or even belittle your own successes. At first, it might seem harmless, but over time, their perspective can plant seeds of doubt in your own mind. You might start to second-guess your worth, your accomplishments, and even question the friendships and relationships you hold dear. Envy is also unique in that it operates under a guise of secrecy. The envious rarely admit their true feelings. Instead, they might disguise their resentment with sarcasm, backhanded compliments, or subtle jabs. These can slowly chip away at your confidence and self-esteem, especially if you're unaware of their effect. The Stoic approach to dealing with envy. Stoicism teaches us to focus on what we can control, our own thoughts, choices, and actions. Envious people fixate on external circumstances, the possessions, accomplishments, or status of others, which are entirely outside their control. When dealing with someone who harbors envy, it's essential to maintain a similar focus on your own inner world. Avoid being drawn into their comparisons or their commentary on others. Instead, ground yourself in the values and goals that truly matter to you. A practical exercise for handling envy in others is to cultivate gratitude. The Stoics practiced gratitude daily, seeing it as a powerful tool for grounding the mind in appreciation of what is, rather than longing for what could be. If you find that someone's envy is starting to affect your own mindset, take a moment to reflect on your blessings and achievements. Remember that everyone's path is unique, and each journey has its own set of challenges and rewards. Setting boundaries with the envious may also involve limiting conversations about material achievements or social status. You don't need to justify your success or happiness to anyone, nor should you feel pressured to downplay your accomplishments. Protect your joy and peace by recognizing when someone's envy is attempting to undermine your sense of worth. Type 7. The unreliable, lacking integrity and commitment. The unreliable person is someone who frequently breaks promises, misses deadlines, or fails to follow through on commitments. These people lack consistency and integrity, often leaving others in a state of disappointment or frustration. To the unreliable, promises are flexible, plans are optional, and accountability is non-existent. They may have good intentions, but their actions rarely align with their words. The Stoics emphasize the importance of integrity, viewing it as the foundation of trust and respect. Epictetus said, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." To a Stoic, this means being honest, even when it's difficult, and fulfilling commitments, even when inconvenient. Unreliable people, however, lack this moral fiber. They avoid responsibility, choosing convenience over duty and often leaving others to bear the consequences of their actions. The emotional toll of relying on the unreliable soar. When you depend on someone who is unreliable, you enter a state of uncertainty. You begin to second-guess their promises, questioning whether they will actually show up, deliver, or support you when you need it most. This constant state of uncertainty breeds stress and anxiety, pulling you away from your own focus and priorities as you compensate for their lack of dependability. The unreliable person's behavior can also affect your own perception of commitment. When you're repeatedly let down, you may become hesitant to trust or rely on others, fearing the same disappointment. This erodes your confidence in relationships, making you feel as though you're always carrying the weight of responsibility alone. The Stoic practice of self-reliance. Stoicism encourages a balance between reliance on others and self-sufficiency. While it's natural to work and connect with others, the Stoics believe that true peace of mind comes from relying on one's own virtues and strength. When dealing with unreliable people, it can be helpful to cultivate this self-reliance by setting realistic expectations. Understand that an unreliable person's behavior is a reflection of their own lack of discipline, not of your worth. One Stoic exercise for navigating this type of person is to practice amor fati, the love of fate. This concept involves accepting things as they are, rather than as you wish them to be. If you know someone is unreliable, adjust your expectations accordingly. This doesn't mean giving up on standards or settling for less. It means recognizing that their behavior is beyond your control and adjusting your actions to maintain your own peace. Setting boundaries with an unreliable person might look like clearly stating your expectations and holding them accountable. You can express that their actions affect you, and if they continue to fail in their commitments, you have every right to minimize your dependence on them. This isn't punishment, it's self-preservation, ensuring that you remain focused on what matters most to you. Type 8. The self-absorbed, lost in their own world. Finally, we come to the self-absorbed, those who view themselves as the center of the universe. They have little to no regard for the needs, feelings, or struggles of others. Their conversations revolve around their own experiences, opinions, and achievements, often disregarding any input that doesn't relate back to them. The self-absorbed lack empathy and struggle to form genuine connections, as they see relationships primarily as platforms for self-expression rather than mutual understanding. For the Stoic, self-centeredness is a major obstacle to living a virtuous life. Stoicism teaches the importance of community, kindness, and humility. Marcus Aurelius, despite being an emperor, constantly reminded himself of his own smallness in the grand scheme of life. He wrote, "How quickly all things disappear, and in this we should find solace." This reflection on our shared mortality and smallness in the universe cultivates a sense of humility, a trait completely lacking in the self-absorbed. The drain of constantly engaging with the self-absorbed. Dealing with self-absorbed people can be draining because they tend to monopolize conversations, disregard boundaries, and view others merely as sounding boards for their own experiences. If you've ever tried to share something meaningful with a self-absorbed person, only to have them redirect the topic back to themselves, you know how frustrating it can be. Over time, this one-sided dynamic erodes your sense of connection and trust, making interactions feel superficial and unfulfilling. In some cases, the self-absorbed might not even realize the impact of their behavior, as they are so consumed by their own narrative. However, their lack of awareness doesn't lessen the toll their behavior takes on those around them. You might find yourself feeling unseen, unheard, or even invisible in their presence, as if your value exists only in how it reflects back on them. The Stoic art of listening and choosing whom to engage with. In Stoicism, listening is a virtue, a way to connect with others and understand the broader human experience. The Stoics emphasize the importance of sympatheia, the idea that we are all connected and that our actions affect one another. But with the self-absorbed, practicing this sense of unity becomes challenging. When someone fails to reciprocate interest, the Stoic would advise considering whether that person truly adds value to your life. The useful Stoic exercise when dealing with the self-absorbed is to observe their behavior without reacting emotionally. Recognize their self-centeredness as a flaw they have not yet addressed, and remember that it's beyond your power to change them. Instead, focus on the relationships that enrich you, with people who value reciprocity, empathy, and genuine connection. Setting boundaries with the self-absorbed can be as simple as limiting the amount of time and energy you spend with them. If a conversation becomes too one-sided, feel free to steer it back or politely disengage. You are not obligated to participate in interactions that leave you feeling drained or unseen. Remember, every interaction is a choice, and your time is too valuable to waste on those who cannot see beyond their own world. In these final chapters, we've covered the nuanced complexities of each type of person and how they challenge our peace, purpose, and growth. The Stoic perspective offers not only philosophical insights, but practical approaches to protect our inner tranquility. By recognizing these types and setting boundaries with wisdom, you preserve your energy for what truly matters, living in alignment with your values, finding peace in the present, and focusing on your own journey of self-discovery and strength.